We are continuing with our Meet the Athlete series for this year's World's Strongest Man competition. Today we are taking a look at Team USA. Now we have a lot of Americans competing this year, 9 athletes in total representing the USA. What do we need to know about these guys?
So starting off with some quick facts then. This group of athletes have a total of 19 international competition wins between them. Collectively, they have 24 appearances at the World's Strongest Man and 7 World's Strongest Man finals, although 4 of those finals belong to Trey Mitchell. Kevin Ferris and Trey Mitchell are the most experienced athletes at World's Strongest Man, having competed there 5 times before each. And Trey is the most successful, having placed 4th 2 times. And Team USA have 2 first-timers in Nathan Galtry and Marcus Crowder.
So, some good athletes coming through from America. Obviously, I would say this year, Trey is the unknown, coming back from injury.
Yes.
However, we have Evan Singleton competing for the USA, who's been in great form the last year, and I think he's got some great events in this year's competition.
Yeah, definitely. And this is, of course, the first year we've not had Brian Shaw since 2008, so a moment of respect for that, please, Darcy. So event number 1 in the heats is the Webster Stones, which are going to be nickel stone weight, Dinnie stone size. Now, the 2 standout names for me on this event are Evan and Kevin. Ooh, weirdly similar.
Yes, Kevin obviously has had records in these type of events before. Very, very good event for Kevin, and we know how good Evan is when it comes to carrying awkward objects. He would probably rather it was a farmer's walk.
Yeah, he would.
However, I still would expect to see him do very well on this type of event in whichever group he ends up in.
Yeah. Now, I don't think this is going to be the start that Trey Mitchell wants. He has done carrying stones, the nickel stones, at the Giants Live Strongman Classic last year, and he came last in that competition, in that event.
From what he's done previously, it's a terrible event for Trey. However, he's lost weight recently. He's looking fitter. Perhaps that changes the puffiness of his hands, makes his grip a little bit stronger. You know, he really has changed a lot since his injury. Yeah. But yes, if we go based off what he's done, this is a very, very bad event for Trey in previous competitions.
Really interested to see how Rob Kearney does here, because notoriously grip events aren't his best events. He has little hands.
Little hands, however, smaller rings will suit him a little bit more. He is allowed to hook grip on this as well, so takes that kind of factor away a little bit, but we haven't really seen Rob do these either. So again, not too much to really go off. Same with some of the newer athletes as well. I think, you know, athletes like Marcus Crowder could do very well, but it's just based off what I've seen him do in other shows, in farmers. I think there's good events for him in this.
Yeah.
Actual seeing him on this event, though, haven't had too much experience.
Well, our OSG men did do a little bit, but it was such a short distance and it was lighter as well. So I do think it's hard just to take that as a given.
Very, very hard. I mean, obviously, I trained a little bit for that contest, and it was such an easy distance that it didn't really bother anyone.
No.
I think when it's max distance and these weights are a bit more challenging, it becomes a different challenge.
Yeah.
So next up we have the deadlift ladder, an interesting variation of a deadlift. I can really see some of these athletes doing very well. Obviously Trey Mitchell is a huge deadlifter. For me, Evan Singleton is brilliantly suited for this type of deadlift. I've criticised Evan's lockouts a little bit before when it comes to a max lift or a heavy deadlift for reps. However, this type of deadlift, where it's about getting through the weights as quickly as possible, is probably the best deadlift that someone like Evan could ask for. He is extremely powerful, extremely fast and aggressive. He has a great grip. I think he can finish this in a fast time.
Yeah. Bobby Thompson, obviously a really good deadlifter. Rob Kearney's a great deadlifter. However, when we had the deadlift ladder in the group stages in 2022, he came 4th in his group. But he was in a group with Adam Bishop, Alexei Novikov and Trey Mitchell. So
that's a pretty tough group. But yeah, we do have a number of good deadlifters here. Like we said, if it was deadlift for max, you're looking at Trey Mitchell and Bobby Thompson. Those two are massive, massive deadlifters. However, the speed factor, I think, favours Evan Singleton. Obviously, we're not going to see all 3 of those guys in the same group, however.
You would hope not. And we should also keep an eye on Marcus Crowder, who won the deadlift ladder at OSG last year.
Did indeed. Moving on to the sandbag steeplechase, and let's remind people there is an extra implement on this time round.
Yeah. So this is going to be a big challenge for the guys, and we've got some great loaders in Team USA. Evan Singleton is freakishly fast. Kevin Ferris has had some great loading results. He has won loading in his group at Worlds before, but not since 2021. It's been a few years.
Last year he wasn't so good. We have seen great performances from him. If he comes in shape, yes, could be a very good event for him.
Yeah. Rob Kearney's had some mixed results on loading. Trey Mitchell isn't the fastest loader. So last year when they had a loading race, when we put all athletes together, he was 20th out of the 30. Bobby Thompson was 12th, but he was in a weirdly fast group as well.
Bobby is one of those athletes that people probably don't give the respect he deserves for these type of events. You know, we think of Bobby as a powerhouse, but he's actually very good at certain carrying events or speed events. It's an area he's worked very hard on over the last few years. And I'd actually expect Bobby to do very well. He's worked extremely hard on his conditioning and fitness over the last couple of years. I think he will surprise people when it comes to this event. This is also an event I think the new guys can do very well at. This is an event where sometimes, you know, it's not necessarily about being the biggest and strongest athlete. You need the conditioning, you need that fitness, and both of the first timers are pretty fit athletes.
And you know what? I don't know. I would love to look up the stats on this, but new guys often do really well in loading. We saw it last year with Jaakko Schoenwinkel and Christian Haraldsson.
When you look at the weights that are lifted on a loading event, it's, you know, we're talking 120 to 140 kilos, so 260 to 300 odd pounds. It's not monstrous weights.
No, it's manageable.
So it's more about the conditioning aspect. And sometimes as you get bigger and stronger, you lose that conditioning aspect. You get to compete with the best in the world. You go to like the Arnolds, these super heavy competitions. You put that mass on, you become stronger at your pressing, at your deadlifting, but you can sometimes lose that athleticism. So sometimes the new athletes do extremely well on these type of events. And you see as they progress through World's Strongest Man, they get a little worse. Right, next up we have the Viking press, and we've got a number of very good pressers in Team USA.
Yeah, so Trey Mitchell is the standout here. He holds the record for the Viking press at the Giants Live setup. Second behind him was Evan Singleton in that same competition, so that was last year. Rob Kearney has won Viking press in competition before, but we've not seen him do it since 2019. Spencer Remick is very good at Viking press. He did it in the Strongman Classic last year, and he tied with Ian Bibby, beating the likes of Mitch Hooper and Pablo Cordiaca. Nathan Galtry is good at Viking press, and of course Bobby Thompson. We haven't actually seen Bobby do it much in competition.
He's not done too much in competition, but Bobby is a great presser. We know that, yes. The one thing I will say is going to be a big advantage is the athletes that have used the Giants Live setup, because it's a similar Viking press. Facing away from the implement is very different to facing it. And as you've just said there, Trey Mitchell has the record on this. I'd expect big points. Evan Singleton also very, very good at this event. I think looking at the events, this is going to be a really important event for Trey to win, because based off previous competitions, these events in the heats are not the best for Trey.
They're not, unfortunately. No, he could definitely drop points on the two moving events.
You mentioned two moving events. We move to another moving event, the car walk. I'm always excited to see a car walk. And I would say the US team have two of the absolute best yoke/car walk runners in the world.
Actually, there's more than that. It goes even deeper. So the two stand out, of course, Evan Singleton, who, when they did this in the 2022 group stages, was 2 seconds faster than everyone else. He was really good. Then Rob Kearney, of course, he's great at car walk and yoke. Marcus Crowder, he came first out of 28 athletes when they did it at OSG. Yeah,
Marcus is actually very, very good at these events. So I would keep your eyes on Marcus. I do not think anyone should sleep on him. I think he's going to be quietly confident with when you kind of look at the events that he's got to do in this heat stages, he's going to cause problems to those big names.
Spencer Remick also, he won the car walk at OSG in 2022, and it was a very similar weight and distance to what they do at World's Strongest Man, and he was in the 11-second range, which competes with the likes of Rob Kearney.
Yeah, it really is going to be exciting to see where some of these athletes end up, who's in their groups, obviously. The one concern for me would be Trey Mitchell. Trey Mitchell is not necessarily bad at the car walk, however, he is coming back from a torn Achilles.
Yeah.
And this is an event that, I've got experience of tearing my Achilles on. Unfortunately, we lost Kilishkovsky because of training on this event. So it's going to be in the back of your mind there a little bit that, can I accelerate? You're going to start off naturally moving a little bit slower. Let's remember, this is his first competition back. It's not like he's had a warm-up and done yoke and thought, okay, I'm feeling good. I've got the confidence now to push it. Yes, of course, he would have been training. But until you are in that kind of start position of competition where you put all those negative thoughts aside and you've got to push to the limit, you don't don't know how the body's going to react. So I am concerned for Trey when it comes to this one. And if he's in a tough group with some other really good athletes that can do yoke, we've got to talk about other athletes coming up. Yeah, there's a lot of athletes that are fast on this event.
I would also be a bit concerned for Kevin Ferris on this event. Now, Kevin is known for being great at moving, but yoke/car walk isn't one of them, unfortunately.
No, farmers walk unbelievably fast. Yoke, not so much.
So the group stages are finishing on the stone off, and we've got an interesting mixed bag, if you like, of talent when it comes to stones. Trey Mitchell would be the standout in this group. He's done a stone off twice before, and he's won it twice.
This is where Trey will feel that he still can be confident of making a final, even though the events aren't amazing for him in the heats. As long as he can get himself into that stone off, he's going to be a threat.
Rob Kearney has done the stone off just once before in 2019, and he lost out to Luke Stoltman. Evan has done one stone off also. That was last year against Athor Ingelson Melstead, and he won. Nathan Goltry is a good stone lifter. He won the stones at OSG.
Yeah, everyone in Team America is solid on the stones. I'd say, the weakness is Bobby Thompson. However, in the right group, he's going to be okay. He wants to avoid the likes of a Trey Mitchell, the likes of a Tom Stoltman, those exceptional stone lifters. And to be fair, he's often had to go against the exceptional stone lifters when it comes to the stone off. I think he's been against Tom and Brian in the past. Hopefully, if he's in a stone off this year, it's against a more reasonable stone lifter.
So the first event in the finals is the Giants Medley, which is the yoke and frame. Now, this would be an exceptional start to the competition, I feel, for Evan Singleton.
I agree. Evan is fast at all moving events. Solid grip when it comes to frame, exceptionally fast on the yoke. We have athletes such as Rob Kearney, who's amazing at yoke, but not so good at a frame.
Yeah.
We've got athletes like Kevin Ferris, who's amazing at frame, not so good at yoke. But yeah, Evan, he can just put these two together. I cannot see Evan scoring anything less than sort of, 8 to 10 points on this one.
Yeah. Now, they did this in 2021, and Trey Mitchell came 9th on this event in that final. So again, probably not the best start for Trey. And they did a very similar event at last year's America's Strongest Man, and that was won by Marcus Crowder, that event.
Yeah, Marcus is good at moving events.
So next is the max axle, and Rob Kearney actually has the best axle numbers in terms of the max lift out of this group of athletes. Last year, again, at America's Strongest Man, they did a max axle, and he lifted 200 kilos.
And I think what people should notice about that is that was post tricep injury.
Yeah.
This wasn't him split jerking, it was just a push press. And, after suffering that bad tricep injury. So it shows it's a good event for Rob.
And then we've got a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, it's not an event we see that often. Marcus Crowder has lifted 188 kilos on an axle before. Evan has done 185 kilos on an axle before. Trey, actually, his max in competition, from what I could see, is 167.5, but that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Trey's obviously... I think Trey and Bobby would both rather a log. Yeah. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see both of them do well in this event. They're both very, very strong overhead. The clean is the hardest part when it comes to axle, and the lack of mobility at that level can affect them slightly. However, both very, very strong. Both could put big numbers up. So how about the throw for height? Very different. We're used to series. We're used to kind of heavier weights. 15 kilos is all it is, but they are going to be launching this thing.
So they use this exact same setup in the 2021 final. And Trey, although he's great in a series, he actually came last on this event.
That's surprising. It is surprising, but, it's easy to make a mistake. I mean, you get multiple attempts.
You do.
However, he didn't do that well last time out on it.
That was also the year that Bobby Thompson was in the final, and he came 5th, so not bad.
And I think that's a good result, especially when you look at who was in there. The likes of Brian Shaw, who's just, I think, the record holder on this event. Maxime Boudreau, an amazing thrower. So to come 5th in that lineup is good. I don't feel it's quite as strong a lineup when you're looking at the best throwers this year.
Well, we've got Maxime and Brian out. Mateusz Kalishkovsky is a great thrower as well.
No Thor, so yeah.
Evan Singleton is really great in a series. Not seen him do a max throw, though.
He's explosive again. As long as he can get the trajectory, I'd expect him to get the height. He's a very powerful, explosive athlete. And they get multiple attempts, so you can make a mistake and still come back and put up a big throw.
Yeah. And then for the other athletes, it's quite average results, I guess you could say. Again, not a great event for Kevin Ferris, not the tallest athlete is here.
No, he's not the best thrower in the world. I would expect, some of the other athletes that are not mentioned in this video to be kind of the top spots. It's about picking up points, and that's where you really look at Evan Singleton as probably the number one American when it comes to this. So Conan Circle, first time seeing this for years in the final of World's Strongest Man. We do not have a huge amount of data to go off for the American athletes. What have you found for us?
Well, obviously they did it in the group stages last year, and the Americans that were in last year were all pretty average. Actually, Bobby Thompson was the best out of the Americans. Again, an event that you wouldn't put Bobby down for, would you?
Bobby is gutsy, and he will push himself to the point of passing out. That's the kind of man that Bobby is. And I think Bobby can do well on this event. He's been training it hard, so it wouldn't surprise me I don't think he wins it, but I think he picks up good points.
And I think in the overall, I think this is the most interesting event in the final for many reasons, because
we don't know.
No, we just don't know for a lot of the guys.
So then we move on to the deadlift. Now again, we spoke about the deadlift ladder. Deadlift for reps is different. I mentioned that Evan Singleton, I think, is going to blitz through the deadlift ladder. His results on this event, when it comes to heavyweight for reps, is not quite as good as I'd expect him to be in the heat stages.
No, so when they did the deadlift for reps in the final last year, he was 7th. To put that into context, Trey Mitchell came 2nd. I think he was joint 2nd, and Mitch Hooper won the deadlift for reps. We've got some other good deadlifters, obviously. Bobby Thompson is a great deadlifter. Rob Kearney, weirdly, looking at Rob's results, most of the deadlifts we see him do are for max.
Some of his best results are for max. And I'll say this, Rob is very good at hitching. He's got his own unique style, and for one rep you can get away with it. When it's more repetitions, you start to fatigue more and more. So I think Rob can get somewhere around the middle. I wouldn't expect to see Rob competing against the very top guys on a deadlift for reps. However, that power that he has off the floor, he's still going to get some reps. So again, he can pick up points.
And Nathan Galtry and Marcus Crowder are both good deadlifters too. So it would be interesting to see either them in the final,
Right, finishing with the Atlas Stones, and there's a couple of factors. We've spoken, about the stones in the stone off. And, even the newer guys, when it gets to this point in the competition, unless they're going to be battling for a top place, normally your body is spent. And even if you are great at the stones in the heat, sometimes you're going to be fatigued by this point. The guys that generally do well in the stones at World's Strongest Man are the ones battling for the title. I'd say the one exception in modern times was Alexei Novikov, who just seemed to fade badly when it came to the last two events after almost winning everything. His body just pushed way too hard, and this is something that some of the newer athletes may experience. What we can go off based off previous competitions is Trey Mitchell is exceptional when it comes to stones. Evan Singleton is very, very solid.
He came 5th last year on the stones.
And he ended up 5th overall. And if he is in the final, Bobby Thompson, this is where he drops points, unfortunately. But if you are into that position where you're fighting, and some people have given up, you can get bumped up a few positions just because you push that little bit harder.
So there we go then, Lozzie. That's Team USA.
Team USA, some fantastic athletes, new athletes and exciting new athletes to look out for. Very, very much looking forward to seeing how they do. Much, much harder to predict a new athlete at Worlds because, as you've heard me mention many times, it's just a very different competition. Much, much longer format. The stop-start nature can throw people off a rhythm. You may see people in a one-day show that just get on with it and they're feeling great. How many times did Evan struggle at World's Strongest Man? Last year was the first time we've seen him do really well at Worlds, and it's taken a little bit of experience. So that experience is key. Trey has the experience, Bobby has the experience, and obviously Evan Singleton has the experience. Rob is desperate to make that final.
But does he almost completely empty his load in the heats to get to the final?
Careful how you phrase that, Auntie Liz. But yes, I think Rob is going to go 100% to make the final. I think if he made the final, he would be happy. And, we do see that. Some athletes, it's all about just getting to World's Strongest Man. For others, it's just about getting to the final. And then there's these athletes that are there to win.
And this is Rob's swan song.
It is indeed. He's announced his retirement. Obviously, we've got a video on that you can see wherever. But for me, Evan Singleton is probably the highest rated American athlete this year, based off the event's not being perfect for Trey, plus him coming back. I'd love Trey to prove me wrong because I want to see him back to his best. But even at his best in the past, these are not the best events for Trey Mitchell. Okay, guys, which of the Americans are you supporting? Who are you looking forward to seeing? And as always, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back soon.